Okay, so now we're going to speak to the barriers that keep us from being committed to our relationships with God, right? Because that's the other area we scored that mid high range, six to eight, right? So sometimes women, we can experience religious trauma, hurt, a bad experience. I know for myself as a child, I had to go to church. I didn't have a choice. So for a while, when I did have a choice, I decided not to do that. Like, no, I'm not going to church. No, I'm not doing that. I was forced to do it. So that's not so much trauma, but I guess it could be trauma, right? That kind of keeps that barrier, that relationship. Like I really just didn't want anything to do with it. um and when we talked about this, one of the ladies expressed like an incident that they had personally where they were church hurt, and for a while it just became the barrier between their relationship with God. So perceived gender inequality, sometimes as women we're not looked as leaders or teachers or to know anything when it comes to religion. Leadership roles are taught restrictive gender expectations. Some may struggle to recoil faith with personal identity. And then life overload. Again, we are doing this and doing that, and we ain't got no time for God, right? We're just got too much going on, and we put our relationship with God on the back burner. Intellectual or theological questions. There's some doubt. Sometimes you have some questions about things that you're being taught or things that you read in the Bible because like your life doesn't look like that or things doesn't appear that way. And there's nothing you wrestle with like different questions and doctrine and fairness. Sometimes like you lose people in your life or it just doesn't seem fair that you're on this side of things and things aren't going good for you. So it's just like that can put a barrier between you and God. Like, God, why did you take this person from me? They were a good person. Or, why did this happen to me, God? Why do you allow this to happen to me? Sometimes that can put that barrier because we think that God is good, should save us from bad things or prevent bad things from happening. Um, Changing cultural influences. Modern culture emphasizes independence and self definition. Some may find tension between contemporary values and traditional teachings. So, yeah, sometimes the values and the morals and the things that come with the relationship with God doesn't really line up in today's norms, right? So that can be a struggle and sometimes block that growth in our relationship with God. Personal plan or disappointment. Unanswered prayers. Ooh, that's a good one. Loss, betrayal, hardship can challenge anyone's sense of connection to God. So a lot of times if we're praying for things and we're faithful and we're doing all those things, going to church and we don't see a difference in our life or those prayers aren't being answered, it's just like, then what are we doing this for? Like it kind of just distances you from God, like makes you start feeling some type of way. Like sometimes we are doing these things and thinking that we're going to receive certain things or we're going to get these blessings and it doesn't always work that way. Move past barriers to commit with God. So let's get past these barriers that we have that can distance our relationship or block our relationship with God. First of all, we need to heal. When we experience trauma, church hurt, and things like that, we need to sit in that in a little bit and just figure out what that's about, why it is, and just start with just committing to um taking your pain and your trauma to God. Like make that commitment and let that be the start of rebuilding your relationship with God. And then separate God from actions of flawed people. Like even though sometimes those expectations when it comes to God and how women should be in relationship with God um aren't true, aren't realistic, like find truth, find truth in what your relationship with God means, despite of, or should look like, despite of what people think or say. Um, Consider faith informed counsel if trauma is involved. Give yourself permission to process anger and disappointment in a healthy way. You can't build deep faith and have suppressed pain at the same time. So ask the hard questions. It's nothing wrong with having some doubt. That can come natural when you're building your relationship with God. Just take those questions to God. He'll answer them. He'll answer them. Sometimes the answers are right in front of your face. If you just pause and take in your environment, and maybe you're not ready to quite like go to the Bible and get all deep in the Bible and research scriptures and different books and read different things. But, if you knock, He will answer. If you ask, you'll receive. So ask for the wisdom and knowledge to understand the things that you're doubting. And I've found, and God has answered me in some of the most like craziest way. God has answered me through nature sometimes. So, you know, just just when you ask the question, just be open to receive the answer in any way that might come. Three, redefine what commitment looks like. Commitment doesn't mean perfection. So sometimes we think that we have to be perfect to have this relationship with God. No, that's not it. Just small things. Start out little, short prayers, read a scripture a day. Yeah, it doesn't have to be all this at once. It doesn't have to look like what it looks like with somebody else. Your relationship with God is your relationship with God. Um, your relationship is almost like if you have parents, okay, and your parents have 5 kids. My relationship with my mom looks a little different than the relationship my mom has with my sister, or this person or that person. So it's all about you and what works for you to build that relationship. Journaling helps. Um, yeah, it's about your growth, your spiritual growth as a relationship, not as a performance. Like, it's not the more we do, the closer we get. No, the more quality we give to what it is that we're doing, the closer that we get. Our heart posture and our desire to want, that's what makes us closer to God. Address burnout overload. If life is overwhelming, you can pray while you drive. I know my dad used to pray for like an hour every day for hours at a time. I'm not there. I don't have that type of time to do that. Okay. So sometimes my prayer is just, I'm laying in the bed for a minute and I'm like, okay, God, give me strength to do this, to get out of bed. Sometimes it's a conversation while I'm driving. Like, God is always in the passenger side. I know I look crazy a lot of times. People might see me driving. If you ever see me driving and my mouth is going and nobody's around, that is me in prayer with God or spending time with God, because I just didn't get the opportunity to do that in my closet in my room. So yeah, take a walk and pray. A lot of times I'm walking and I'm just praying and talking to God. So yeah, you just get them in where you fit them in at. Find healthy community, right? So you want to be in a community of people that are, searching for that relationship as well, or trying to maintain and sustain that relationship as well. So be in environments where women are valued and heard. Look for spaces that balance truth with compassion. Distance yourself from settings that rely on shame or control. So sometimes that can create a barrier if you are always being talked down on, or you feel like you can't come and be honest with what you're struggling in because you're going to be judged. um if somebody always has you feeling shameful because you did something that you knew that God wasn't pleased with, like, you got to be careful. You don't want to sit under condemnation all the time, because God is love, God is forgiving. So we can mess up, ask for forgiveness, move on, and not let it strain or distance our relationship with God. So you got to make sure you're not in environments that do that. reconnect through service. Sometimes just deepening your relationship with God can mean like volunteering, being a mentor. Um, if you can't do it like in prayer, or you can't like always crack open that good old Bible, that good old book and study, just, help somebody, be a service to somebody else. Um, you definitely feel that connection with God when you're playing that role. Revisit your why. Ask yourself, what does faith mean to me personally? What kind of spirit life do I want to have long term? So, yeah, why? For me, my why is my relationship with God brings me such peace, peace that surpasses all understanding. A lot of people that don't have it don't get it. So if you don't have that relationship with God where you're connected and it brings you such peace, it is so hard to make other people understand that. And sometimes for me, cutting off other relationships with other people to maintain and sustain this relationship with God is necessary, and that is hard sometimes for people to understand. So yeah, that is my why. Accept spiritual seasons. Faith goes in cycles. Sometimes you feel like you're close to God, sometimes you feel like it's a little dry, he's not hearing you, there's no communication there, or you might need to rebuild, you done strayed a little bit to the left too much, and now you got to come back here and do this again. um and I've been in all those seasons. I've been like really deep in it, close to God, shut down, isolated, just me and him. It's a good place to be if you can do that. It definitely brings some clarity and builds your relationship with God. And then I've had those dry seasons where it's just like crickets, like oh, oh, oh. But that's just like any relationship, especially if you're in a relationship with the male ladies. You know how sometimes you gotta go silent on them. That don't mean that you're not there. You're just silence, and your silence means something. So if you don't hear God, he's still telling you something. So don't mistake a dry season for yeah, you're not close to God, because that doesn't always mean that. And then rebuilding, yeah, break down, rebuild. But every time you rebuild, it's stronger. Every time I rebuild my relationship with God, if I stray or I'm over here a little bit too long and I'm putting him on the back burner, every time I come back and rebuild, it's stronger. So, there's nothing wrong to be in different seasons with God and different spaces and it feel different. Um, that doesn't mean that you're not in a relationship with God. So yeah, that's how we're gonna get past those barriers and maintain that relationship with God, ladies.